in its marketing, it almost gave us the sense or hope for like dogfights with helicopters and dragons, and it didn't really live up to that. And that's, I think, why it wasn't a great success. Hello and welcome to the Brothers Random Show. My name is Travis.
I'm Michael.
And we are two ordinary brothers discussing extraordinary ideas and some random shit. Michael, why are we here?
Today we are discussing Reign of Fire, the 2002 dragon film.
A creature has been awakened that has lain dormant for millions of years. A species older than the dinosaurs and more terrifying than anything we could have imagined.
How did they go from 1 to a million in less than a year?
Highly evolved.
They have great vision in the day. They have even better vision at night.
Extremely intelligent.
He's playing hide and seek.
More like cat and mouse.
Unbelievably powerful.
2 glands in the mouth secrete separate chemicals.
Combining exhalation, natural napalm.
Good luck.
It's January, so not a lot of great films are coming out nowadays. So we are going to go over some of the old stuff to keep entertained.
It was directed by Rob Bowman, and who is like a director for X-Files for many years. And it stars Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale, and Gerard Butler, and Isabella Secuprio. I'm butchering her name, but anyway, she's an old ex-Bond girl. So,
Did she do Bond after this or before this?
I think it was before.
Was this
Pierce Brosnan's was the end of the 90s. She's one of Pierce Brosnan's Bond girls.
This is a new look that we get to see, and I don't think we've really seen anything like this from Matthew McConaughey before or since.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, he's gone in some dark territory. Some dark
with hair, though. Usually, he still has hair. He's
gone in
roles.
in dark areas. He was losing his hair at the time, so he's done something to
keep that
stop
from happening.
Keep that from happening. But yeah, I don't have any problem with a bald Matthew McConaughey. So
oh gosh, it was awesome. Like I looked forward to it. I was just like, what? And he's like ripped in this.
Now that we've talked about the hairstyles, let me just mention. The premise is the world has been taken over by dragons that were found in the earth, and they come out, and it's a post-apocalyptic movie, and it's about the world being ravaged by fire-breathing dragons. Which, if for my money, that's a great premise, right? I mean, yeah. That initially that's what we like. We like this idea.
Super great idea. Yeah, it's like modern times, dragons, modern times.
In its marketing, it almost gave us the sense or hope for like dogfights with helicopters and dragons, and it didn't really live up to that. And that's, I think, why it wasn't a great success. And it wasn't. It came out, it had initial success, and it dropped off a cliff after a while. I think they barely made back their money. And Rob Bowman, he actually pretty much went back to TV after, or the film initially right after this was a bomb. That was Elektra with Jennifer Garner, and he pretty much had 2 bombs right next to each other, and that kind of stopped his film career. So he's solely TV right now, which, I mean, I'm sure he's got a great career, but I kind of feel sorry for him because this movie has a lot of potential to it. I don't know if it lived up to the potential, and that was the problem, I think, initially.
Oh, I actually think it's a underrated film. It's pretty underrated, I think. It's not amazing, but there's a lot of aspects to it that are really great. It's not like super action packed. but it's got some characters that I feel like, and some character development in there that I think is actually pretty great. So,
well, before we get into spoilers, you just said what your initial thoughts of it are. I also would agree. I think it's a good film. I wouldn't say it's a great film. I liked it. When I saw it initially, I didn't like it. The second time around, watching it again for the first time, and probably I haven't seen this movie probably for 20 years at least.
When I saw this in theaters, I had some major high hopes.
Yes, I think I was
dragons, modern times, helicopters, tanks, sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And went a little and left the movie theater a little disappointed. But I think that was just because of the we kind of hyped ourselves up a little bit.
Yeah. Supposedly Rob Bowman actually said something along the lines of, if we had shot exactly what the first script had in it, it would have been a $230 million movie. Yeah. Because I guess there was way more action. And so in order to save money, they kind of cut back on the action and had more of the drama.
Yeah.
And I think that appealed to the actors involved, because Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey are butting heads through most of it. And these are powerhouse actors. I mean, McConaughey's got an Academy Award since. Christian Bale's got an Academy Award since.
And Gerard Butler, who plays a smaller role, but at the same time,
he's like the comical relief in this, actually.
Yeah, it's at the same time, you see some of these people go on to have these awesome careers. Amazing
careers. Like, this is before we knew Matthew McConaughey could transform himself into a completely different looking person.
Not a rom-com.
Not a rom-com.
This was the rom-com phase of Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
he was trying to break that mold.
He was trying to, he tried pretty hard too. So
he did good in this to break that. So yeah, when he throws off his he's
jacked, man.
Jacket,
he's so jacked.
And then he beats the shit out of Christian Bale.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Christian Bale is no slouch in this either. They had like several scenes with.
Oh, well, did you hear about that? So Christian Bale was gonna do kind of like a machinist look.
Oh, gaunt. He was gonna be like starving.
Yeah. And he felt like it fit the premise a little bit, because they're always the colony of people. They're always trying to get food.
Yeah.
They're talking about their crop not lasting them.
Yeah.
The season, there's talk about food a lot in that. And so him being gaunt would fit the story fairly well, but he knew that there was going to be a fight with him and McConaughey, and he saw McConaughey jacked. And he was like,
it's a testament to,
and he hit the gym like right away and put on a bunch of muscle for the part.
What it would have worked better if he had been gaunt, because my theory is that he should have been that way, because that would make more sense, right? I mean, when you see both of them with their shirts off, it's like neither one of these guys is starving. To put on that kind of muscle, you got to have a massive amount of protein in your diet, but that's for the movie, right? That's a movie. That's a movie cliche or whatever. I think people in this kind of world would probably be starving. So
it would be for reals. Yeah, it wouldn't be great for sure.
Now that we've talked about the actors a little bit, I guess we should get into a little bit of the spoilers. So I think what I liked about this film is I do like the idea that it's more of a drama, that everybody's kind of playing this straight. And if they had maybe 2 or 3 really, really awesome action sequences, then I think this could have been a better success. Live up to the hype, essentially. Like if they had tank battles with the dragons, if they had like a couple of dogfight battles with helicopters and the dragons, like if they had actually done that, this would have lived up to the hype that it was actually the promise of this film. And I think one of the things, and either smartly or not smartly, that Rob Bowman tried doing is he wanted it to kind of feel like Jaws, where they don't show the dragons a lot. They
Right.
like you pull back. And to tell you the truth, I think this is probably one of the few times where dragons are really menacing in pop culture. Like we have way too many movies like Aragon and Dragonheart and all these movies aren't, they're not scary dragons. They're like friendly and jokey, and they talk, and they're friends with them. Not even Game of Thrones has, I would say, some scary dragons in it, but most of the time, like if you have people riding dragons, they're not scary. And in my mind, dragons are meant to be the evil, like they're supposed to be
the bad guys. They're supposed to be the
bad guys. They're supposed to be, and I've always thought that. And there are very, very few movies where the dragons are bad. It's almost like childhood fantasies are, what if I had a pet dragon? And like everybody has that feeling. And so because of that, we have a ton of movies where the dragons are good. And it's like, even like How to Train Your Dragon. I love that movie. I love that whole franchise, but I love it for different reasons other than the fact that the dragons are good. In my mind, these are the most menacing dragons they've ever put on film. Maybe outside of Game of Thrones.
Well, even Game of Thrones, it's like they're
pets.
They're pet. Yeah, exactly. They're menacing pets. So sometimes they're pets that you can control, and sometimes you can't control them. And so there's a little bit of
there's a
nuance
dance,
there,
like a little dance.
But still, it's like they're riding them throughout. So you're right. Like this is one where it no holds bar. They're bad, and we're not training them for pets or anything like that. We're here to kill them. They're here to kill us.
Yeah. That's kind of like my thought. And in my mind, we need more of those. I think what's another dragon movie, like the Hobbit movie, and we got Smaug, and Smaug's menacing and evil, but he also talks. So I don't know. I think when you have a character that talks, maybe it takes away some of the menace.
Yeah, it takes away the fact that this is an animal.
Yeah.
Like versus this is a character that has abilities to think and reason and et cetera, et cetera. So,
well, I guess we should get into spoilers.
Yeah.
Spoilers now. There's a big controversy online whether Van Sant, the character that Matthew McConaughey plays, is like unnecessarily dies and kind of abruptly dies.
Yeah. When I saw it in theaters, I remember just being like, oh man, like he didn't have to do that. Like that didn't really help much. Watching it again,
it's like a last ditch, like this is all I got left.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to say that it really helped. Like so it is kind of hard to say.
Well, and that's one of the things that makes this movie less than a good movie, like less than a great movie, right? Like I know a lot of people love this movie, but this movie kind of, like I said, it's got all this potential and it never kind of fulfills any of the potential. And one of the good things that would have brought this movie a little bit more like, I don't know, was if Van Sant actually like succeeded in something, like taking out an eye or something like that, or like something that would have, like, it would have been so cool to have done kind of like a Captain Ahab thing where the dragons got him and he takes his axe and just slices the eye before the dragon completely and takes
Yeah, I feel like you kind of see a little bit of Captain Ahab in
Van Sant.
Van Zan. He's so dead set on killing the dragons
Yeah.
that it's kind of like screw all costs.
Yeah.
Screw everything else. We're here to kill dragons.
And Christian Bale's desire is just to keep people like
his people alive.
Yeah.
So the two different characters, obviously, that's why they butt heads, and they could have explained a little bit of like how he needed to ground the dragon, and that his sacrifice might have been the thing
that
to ground the dragon,
yeah.
rather than him kind of just like. Now it's epic. It's a great scene. It's epic. He jumps up in the air.
He's got a battle axe.
He's got battle axe. Yeah, it's
kind of badass.
Right. So, but then he just gets eaten, and you're kind of like, well, what was the point of that?
Well, and that's kind of how a lot of the deaths happen. Like Gerard Butler's death is kind of pointless.
Yeah. And that might be the point in the film a little bit. It might have been, the director and the writers might have been kind of going for this kind of hopeless endeavor to fight these beasts, and that might have been a little bit of the point. There's nothing else we can do here, so I'm just going to go out the best I know how to.
Yeah.
Trying to kill this thing. So that might have been like partly the point.
Well,
now you know how it would feel if we really were fighting dragons.
Yeah. One of the big problems with this movie, I think, is the inconsistency in it. And I got nothing against like the action sequences, because they're actually kind of exciting action sequences, but they're kind of pointless action sequences. If you get what I'm saying? So the whole scene with the guys jumping out of the plane, it's like, well, and then he shoots the dragon with a harpoon that puts it down the ground, and then he finishes off with his axe. Why didn't he just do that in the first place? What's the point of the skydivers? What's the point of the skydivers? It's a cool scene. It is very visually stimulating, but it's like there's like a lot of pointlessness.
Well, I think you were right. The point of them was because they had the nets that they shot at it. I believe the point of them was to ground it, so that hit it. Now they kind of missed.
Yeah, they missed.
They couldn't really see it, and they kind of missed. And so
it feels very much like they should have done at least one scene where it all went well, and then another scene later, like how it's supposed to work, and then maybe another scene later in the movie where it all goes bad, because it kind of felt like it was a lot for a very little.
Well, and he kind of points that out when they're all celebrating. So the castle community are all celebrating because they kill the dragon, and Van Zan comes in, and they're all like, yeah.
Well, that's where there's a great line in there where he says, "Envy the country that has heroes, huh?" And then he goes, "I say pity the country that needs them." And he's mad that they're celebrating after he's lost a bunch of men. And I get that, but also those people haven't ever seen kill a dragon.
So they're celebrating because they've never seen a dragon be killed before. And then but to his point, he's like, we lost 3 men. At that rate, we'll never win.
Yeah.
So
the plot kind of moves into this category of there's a one male who's fertilizing all the females, and they have to take down the one male to to stop the species essentially from climbing or
Mhm.
from breeding. And that's the point of the end point of the movie, which it all kind of works out. And the dragon effects in this really hold up. I mean, it is a 20-year-old movie, and those dragon effects, like there's a couple of cheesy moments, but they did some really good effects. Like you watch effects now and it's just like they can't make that good of effects now. It's like,
Yeah, it's crazy how little progress the
we've
effects have
made.
made.
Yeah, isn't
It's
it?
so yeah, it's true. I mean, the when they kill the first one, you can kind of look and see, and you're like, ah. But
Yeah.
then at the end, when they're fighting the male,
The male,
you're like,
yeah.
whoa, okay.
So
It's like crawling around on the ground, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's not bad there.
well, and
So-
it's kind of the designs, it look like they've been kind of copied throughout the last several years. I would say that the dragons in this are kind of reminiscent of dragons in Game of Thrones. I would say that so there's a lot that they kind of pulled from for this movie, even though this movie never kind of was considered a success. That alone, the dragon designs I would say were a success. They look,
yeah, they say this film had a lot of influence on the dragons we see now
in movies
throughout the films that we see now, that these dragons actually held a lot of influence on that, which is kind of cool to think about. Like, and I don't know that Reign of Fire ever really became kind of a cult classic.
I don't know. It didn't do well in theaters. It kind of was. Critics hated it. It didn't really derail any of the people involved's careers, because Matthew McConaughey went on to do excellent stuff later in his career, and Christian Bale became Batman, and Gerard Butler did 300, and so all that's history. But it was a great kind of it. I still think it's one of these movies, and you and I talk about this a lot, have talked about this in the past, is it's one of these movies that had a really great idea that just never quite stuck the landing. I feel that way about like Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage. I thought, man, what a great idea for a movie, and then it just didn't stick the landing. It's that sort of thing. Another one's like The Mummy with Tom Cruise. It had a good idea, a good premise, bring it into the modern era, and then it just didn't stick the landing. So
I got a question for you as we start to wrap this up. Does this, could this get a prequel or a sequel? And could they do it where it was awesome and do it well?
Well, modern filmmaking doesn't really lend itself to better things. Like, so if you're talking to like maybe doing a remake of it, or like at least taking the premise and going with something like a sequel, or like you said, a prequel. I think if we were to get the dogfights with helicopters and dragons, or jets and dragons, like would be an amazing thing. But with the current CGI that we are getting out of Hollywood now, I think it would be terrible.
With just everything, I'm sure, because they'd have to throw some woke in it. It probably would end up horrible. But to think about
what could have been.
What
What if this was a $300 million movie?
The story of the Kentucky irregulars getting from the U.S. into England. I could see that being pretty crazy cool. Yeah.
So okay,
I'd love to see like a dogfight with a dragon on the ground with a tank.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be awesome. Yeah, where like the tank is shooting a 50 cal into its chest.
Yeah,
where it's like it grabs and then like some dog fights with some jets.
Yeah, like F-15s or something like that.
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
that'd be so cool. That'd be awesome. But
yeah,
okay, so we're
fanboying out, you know.
Yeah, we're fanboying out. So here's something that it kind of annoyed me about this movie is that, and I get it, it's probably a budgetary thing, but Matthew McConaughey's tells a story about when he first killed a dragon, and in almost every movie writing class, in every film class, they're gonna always say, don't have characters tell the stories, show the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a character who's speaking about something that happened in their past, and then you actually,
it was probably a budget thing.
I would imagine it was a budget thing, but that would have been an excellent and awesome scene to have shot. Because he tells this story about it like it's at dusk, and the dragon was flying low, and it
misses their center several times when it flies by. Anyway,
that would have been so this is the problem with the movie, is that feels like a big missed opportunity for this movie to do something a little bit further. And obviously it's probably because of budget. I mean, I can imagine they said it took them a year after principal photography for them to get the special effects right in this movie. And the special effects actually, in comparison to special effects we're getting now, it holds up pretty good. They used a newer technique where they actually scanned like clay molds of the dragons and then scanned them into the computer, and so they were able to. So that gives them more of a lifelike, not less wooden like movements and stuff like that. So it really feels like a missed opportunity movie, to be completely honest. I like it, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
Mainly because maybe my expectations, like when I left the movie theater initially, I was disappointed in it. But having seen it again with lowered expectations, it's a pretty good movie. I mean, the acting holds up. Everybody who's acting in it is doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
There's some sideline stories that are kind of needless, like Christian Bale's relationship with the young boy Jared, I think is the name of the character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of, it goes nowhere. They have like drama just for drama's sake, and then it kind of doesn't do anything. I don't know if there was probably more to the edit, I would imagine, which made those scenes make more sense. You know,
and he was trying to do more with like face to face and drama. Because of the budget.
Like
that's what they were trying to do more of that. Because of the budget, they couldn't do as much as they wanted to with like action, and with dragons and fight scenes at the dragons and things like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad that it's not a better movie. Like, it's a movie that everybody wanted to do to be better, right? I think people went to it going, "This looks awesome," and then left being somewhat disappointed by it. But on second viewing, it's a pretty solid film. I think, you know, one or two more really great action sequences would have put this over the top, and maybe a little less of a senseless death from Van Sant. So there's a great moment in it with Christian Bale when his buddy dies and he's about to lose it, and he realizes that all the children are watching him, and he kind of stops and he sits down and he says prayers with them, their chant that they do.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a nice little like nod to like, you know, sticking through it, even when the odds are stacked against you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Thought that was
keeping your shit together. When everything's like falling apart around you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
oddly, I felt like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity with the prayer thing, because he's like, let's say prayers. And I thought maybe they were going to go for this kind of religious night fighting dragons kind of thing. But then they say this prayer that's not praying to a god or anything. Just like it's like a chant to make sure these that look for the dragons. Watch out for the dragons. And it played with some interesting stuff in the fact that these are kids that have grown up in this world. Christian Bale is old enough that he remembers a time
when that it wasn't
before. But these kids have never known anything different. So this is their world. And they portray that a little bit with Christian Bale character and Jared Butler doing a play of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And
it's a fun little moment.
It's a fun little cool thing. It's like a cultural thing, so we all like get it.
And a fun little side note, you remember Joffrey from Game of Thrones?
Mm-hmm.
The actor, I think his name was Jack Gleason, is in this movie, another dragon movie. He's one of the little kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has one close up at some point in the movie, and
that's funny.
Yeah, I thought that was a little interesting side note there. Thanks for joining us, audience. Check us out on social media, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look for the Sword in the Skull.
If you liked this video, then you are the subscriber we are looking for.
In the meantime, keep reading, keep listening, keep watching, learn more.
Click on this for some more random videos.